would now be starting up with a session on higher education, industry-academia collaboration, channelizing collaborative models. We will now invite all the speakers in this session to join us on the stage. Mr. Amarnath Reddy, CEO, Jawahar Knowledge Center. Ms. Sunita, Commissioner, Directorate of Collegiate Education, Government of Andhra Pradesh. Dr. Pankaj Gupta, Director General, Jaipuria Institution of Management. Mr. V.S.N. Raju, Chief Operating Officer, Globrina Technologies. And Dr. Sri Rama K. Murthy, Co-Founder, Chairman and CEO, Technique. Yes, sir. And Mr. M.P. Pillai, Director, NIE, LIT, Chennai. Industry-academia collaboration, channelizing collaborative models. The challenges of finding job-ready workers who can easily sink into an organization from day one continue to ail employers. It has been necessary that we discuss various models that will help students learn organizational behavior from day one of their course. The session will be chaired by Mr. Amarnath Reddy, CEO, Jawahar Knowledge Center. I would request, we would now focus on the various issues on how institutes of higher education can best impart problem solving and social skills to the students, on how to augment the creativity so that they are considered as value human assets by the company, need to inculcate soft skills training in the curriculum, and importance of including industry-based entrepreneurship as a part of the course. I would request Mr. Amarnath to take over the session, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Is it audible in the back? Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Hope you had a good lunch and are still keeping awake. We have a very good panel, a star panel today. And I think you should get a lot of good inputs. I see a lot of students in the audience today, so we have a good mix in the audience as well. And this is a very interesting topic. I mean, this is a topic of interest to the nation as well. We have lakhs of students coming out from various engineering and traditional degree colleges today. And the job market is very fluctuating. It is not just dependent on local economy or national economy. There are so many global factors playing in, a lot of new technologies coming in every day. You got to get equipped with a lot of new things and you don't know what to get equipped. And companies are coming in, I mean, there are new companies coming out every day with new technologies. So there's a lot of factors here. And what does a student really need to do to get employed or to make a career? I mean, and is employment the only thing? Can he be more enterprising in what he does? What does companies typically look for? What is the game here? I mean, so that we have really good panelists here. I'm just going to set the rules of the game today. I think we have about an hour. Oh, we have another panelist joining us. Mr. Amit Sharma, please.
Mr. Amit Sharma, Additional Secretary, Government of Jammu and Kashmir.
So we have 6 panelists and we have close to an hour. What do you think? How much time do we have? About an hour?
About an hour.
So I would say we'll limit each panelist to 5 to 6 minutes. With either a presentation or they can go and speak about from their experiences, and then we'll go with about 20 minutes of QA. Okay. To start with, let me start off with Mr. Raju. Mr. Raju is from Globrina, and Globrina is an institute that has been there for a long time. And Raju specifically, I mean, we have a lot of numbers here. We are speaking so many engineers coming out, so many degree students coming out, but when you look at the employment that is generated in the state, I mean, it's probably about 20,000 on average over the last 5 to 6 years. So how do you match the two? And what do you do in terms of training? And where do you find all the jobs? And what do the remaining students do? So can you focus on those points in your presentation along with what you have already prepared?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Amar. Dignitaries on the dais, off the dais. Good afternoon. As Mr. Amar mentioned, this is today's hot topic. Almost on every stage and every forum, we have started discussing about this. Maybe not today, last couple of years, we have been discussing how to address this and how to tackle and how to inculcate employability skills among our students. I'd like to look at, maybe from the basic point of view, when we look at what are the driving forces to recruit students for the industry purpose. Any industry, their strategies, business strategies, maybe adaptation to reduce cost and increase productivity and go for new markets and new products and services. So these are the business strategies any industry will look for. What is that they are looking for employees? When we look at, they want to have a competitiveness among the students, innovation in their approach, flexibility according to the situations, and client focus. So these are some of the key points what employers are expecting from the employees. The other important point I would like to touch upon, what is the basic real meaning of employability skills? Why we are talking? As an organization last 10 years, personally I have been working with several institutions. When we visit colleges, we always talk about the numbers. We have given around 500 offer letters, 1,000 offer letters, whatever, number game we are working. But are we seriously looking at the sustainability of the student? After getting the offer letter, whether the student, how he is performing at the organization, how he is working towards organization performance. This is the very key point. Not only just inculcating soft skills or communication skills, we have to provide holistic approach to each and every student. Maybe specific skills according to the industry as well as the basic competencies we have to provide. When we look at what is that employer is looking for, when we look at the academia side, what are the challenges I would like to just put? What are the challenges we are facing? One is the most important challenge, the training part. Academia has to provide, apart from their domain, where they are expected to deliver maybe basic communication skills, soft skills, aptitude, sector-specific skills. Are we in a position to provide these are the skills while they are in the college, either 3-year degree or 4-year degree? We are able to provide a capsule, maybe 30 hours of training, 60 hours of training. Can we expect with that a student can perform better at the employment place? So these are the lot of imbalance we are seeing when we look at student when they go to corporate to face the real world. Other problems I would like to mention are our students are taking their disciplines, maybe electronics or whatever, by choice or by chance. Really, we are not looking at our strength. What is my strength? Which area I can take up so that tomorrow I can perform? And a lot of outdated, because we work very closely with a lot of universities in India, almost around 21 universities we are working. I'm not naming everyone, maybe a couple of universities. The curricula and methods of universities is really outdated. Really, we have to work together to come up updated curriculum. Dearth of trained and qualified teachers, lack of industry exposure. We are only talking about, okay, whenever a industry is booming, we talk about only about that industry. Maybe 4 years before, we all talked about IT. We were not able to think beyond IT. How many IT companies have visited our organization, or our academia, how many people they have selected? Then unscientific method in terms of providing communication soft skills training. Then academia is not able to keep up the pace. Because industry every year, because last year what technology we have seen, maybe this year is outdated. Are we in a position to adapt ourselves toward that past? Maybe these are the challenges I have seen. If you look at the challenges, what is the result we are facing now? Some worrying factors we have to look at. Only less than 50% of our graduates are employable. I'm not saying about 50% people are getting jobs. Only 50% are employable. When we look at, we are the largest engineering student producer, only 30% students are employable. Two kinds of unemployability we are facing. One is unsuitability for the job. Jobs are available. If you look at NSGC, National Skill Development Council, lot of jobs they have projected. Maybe next 5 years, they have seen almost 10-fold growth they are looking. Are we in a position to take up that? Unsuitability. Other one is underemployment. And education, our system is working towards exam-oriented rather than skill-oriented. We have to adapt this one. Then, when we look at, a lot of students are here. When we look at, as I mentioned, almost we have more than 4,000 engineering colleges in India. When we look at the student-teacher ratio, are we adequate having that number? A lot of disparities there in terms of student-teacher ratio, resulting that we are pushing semi-finished talent to our industries. What is that we need to do? We have seen the issues about academia. What is that we need to look into that? We need to look for effective career counseling involving industry, then awareness about traditional and emerging jobs, what is going to come up. We have to train faculty towards using technology. Maybe we have to look at what revolution happened at the school level. Maybe schools and hospitals are using more technology rather than our colleges. When we look at, without a smart class, you cannot imagine a school now. At the same time, when we look at our colleges, technology-driven colleges, we are not using technology. So we have to encourage our faculty to go for technology innovation in their teaching. And we have to have a collaborative approach in terms of academicians, industry experts, HR, peer institutions, to have industry exposure so that they can share their views, they can improve their knowledge. I would like to mention about one thing, apart from the points what I mentioned. Are we in a position to be proud as a teacher? When we look at, lot of times, we always feel, okay, we tend to, accidentally we land at colleges to teach. Maybe that is my perception, I may wrong. We are not in a position to be proud to call as a teacher. I would like to give a small example. When you look at, everybody loves cricket, like cricket. Batsman is there, bowler is there. But whatever it is, batsman has more popularity. And they say, whatever professions we may have, but teaching is the different. Teachers can make or break anything. They are the creators. I think somehow, as a country, we have to look. Individual has to be proud to be as a teacher. When I mentioned career counseling, we have to introduce robust career counseling. We have to provide tools and systems, so encourage them to go for a lot of assessment solutions that are available in the market. And along with that, they can tie up with CII, NASCOM, FICCI. These are the institutions can provide the guidance. And crafting employment-oriented curricula. Here, I would like to just skip maybe a couple of things. We have to involve industry while
you have to really
designing the curriculum.
I mean, I think you can cover the other topics during Q&A. We've already covered a lot of topics.
Okay. I'd like to close then. Can I take one more minute? Yeah. And effective teaching, what already I just mentioned, as Amar mentioned, this is upgrading skills for the teachers and faculties, technical knowledge, creative, modern teaching technologies, and providing industry exposure and awareness. Here I would like to mention about a small example. See, in AP we have a lot of engineering colleges. I would like to provide JNTU Kakinada, what we are doing a project. JNTU Kakinada have 297 colleges with them. But if you look at 297, they have qualified teachers in different colleges. To take their value, we are connecting all colleges into web conferencing facility and converting entire curriculum into e-curriculum, so that the teacher, while they teach, they can use the e-content to teach, and the peer institutions can also listen that topic, so that we can utilize the technology. Apart from that, we can talk to industries. We are talking to HP for academia programs, so that we can introduce industry-endorsed programs, so the students can pay for that, can learn. So these are the areas I'm looking when you have the technology intervention. Before closing, as I mentioned, this is our country's talent development challenge. Why I'm talking? Because 54% of our population is under age 25. When we build skills among our students, so we are building our country. So together we need to build our skills as well as our country. We'll work together for that. Thank you.
Mr. Raju, thank you. You have touched upon a wide range of topics. Now we would move on to our next panelist, Ms. Sunita. Madam is a Commissioner for College Education. She oversees all the traditional degree colleges in the state, producing about 500,000 graduates every year. And it is a monstrous task, to overseeing just all of them, and you don't know what is happening to them, how many of them are going where, how many of them are ending up in employment, and how many of them are pursuing higher education. Can you just go over some of your statistics and what you do with your students, and what are some of the programs that you run on the employment side?
Respected Amarnath Reddy Garu, all the panelists, guys, my colleagues, all the students here, very good afternoon to all of you all. Just to give an overview of what is happening in college education Hyderabad or AP. We have around 252 government colleges, and this year I think another 5 of them have been sanctioned. It makes it 257, 179 aided colleges, and another 2,000 private colleges. Sorry, 1,500 private colleges. And we have around 5 lakh students studying in these colleges. These colleges mostly have a degree and BA, BSc, BCom, that kind of thing. And they are divided into 2 types. One is the conventional type, which is funded by the government, where you have typical HEC or MPC and BIPC kind of follow-up in the degree classes. The other is the restructured courses, where the students themselves pay a higher fee so that college sustains the courses. Why I'm talking about this is that there is a movement from the conventional courses to the restructured courses. The restructured courses are based on the demand of the students. So if a certain course is not viable, then the college closes that course and goes for a different course. And we hope that these restructured courses are more tailored to meet the demands of the industry. Like my predecessor has spoken about earlier, there's a lot of issues regarding employability and student quality and teacher quality. And I just want to underline some of the processes we have set in motion in the college education, so that we could improve the kind of situation which is prevailing right now. Long back we had started the JKC. I don't know how many of the students who are wearing that t-shirt understand the meaning of that. The whole form is Jawahar Knowledge Center. It is meant for improving the communication skills of the students. Basically English base and a sort of confidence building in the student, so that when he goes for an interview outside, he will be able to actually speak and talk about what he actually feels about the whole subject. Because for many people who have worked in Andhra, there is a certain hesitance in the students and the girls especially in vocalizing what they actually feel. So this was started for that purpose, and this is also present in all the colleges which are present in our college education. We've also started, because we felt that the students were like learning more by heart, whatever they had to learn, they weren't actually getting a grasp of the subject. So we started a little more activities to make the student a little more thought processing kind of thing. We started projects last year, and since we didn't want the project to be something which is light-hearted, we started saying that all the projects will be judged and the best project would be given an award. We started a program where all the best students in various departments, sciences, everything were given a best performance in the statewide thing at the this thing. Last time the Chief Secretary chaired it, and we gave, we were trying to recognize the students who were doing very well academically. We also had in that literary skills, debates, everything which was going on, so that students also were encouraged to participate in these things. Otherwise, what happens is generally, a degree college becomes a college where only a student goes there, wants to attend, he attends, he doesn't want to attend, doesn't attend, goes at the end of the year, writes some exam, learns from some guide, and then he misses out on all the learning and the fun which actually goes on with education. For most of us on this, I don't know how many of them would agree, but most of us on this board and people down there, college is a place where you not only learn about the academics, but also pick up skills. You learn how to communicate, how to work together, about the world, you pick up your skills, you do your learning, reading all that at that stage, because many of us subsequently in professions get too busy and we are not able to actually catch up our learning. But we would have read a lot of things there. This reading helps us later on in our own fields. So this is what we were trying to inculcate in all these things. We also started encouraging the alumni association to come back to the college and contribute. They could just come to the college and talk about what they did, how they did, just to have this feel among the students that a product of their own college could become that, and he could advise the students what to do to become more successful. I would also like to talk about two, I still have time? Yeah. So I also would like to talk about two ventures which Krishna University has done. In that, they have tagged up with the university, industry, and last year they tied up with one F-Tronics digital signaling and manufacturing unit, where they sent 25 students of theirs into, morning they had classes and afternoon they used to work in the industry. And so they had a real life experience of what the industry was like, because I think my predecessor also told you all that the students do not have much idea about, even if they study a subject like electronics, they don't actually know the working of that in real life. And so companies hesitate to take them because they feel these people are more theoretical and they're not application based. So this university tried this, and all the students, they had this thing for the MSc Electronics, and by the time the students finished their MSc Electronics, they were selected in the same company and they're working there. This year they have a tie-up with some Laurus Labs. It's a 600 crore turnover company. This time they are having this with analytical chemistry and organic chemistry students. This is an example of how universities can tie up with industries. Having a certified course is a different cup of tea. You know, certified course, sometimes the student picks up something, it doesn't pick up something. But when you have a tie-up with an industry, the student actually gets a feel of what is happening in that industry, and that helps them in making them more employable. I'm sure Amarnath Reddy will also talk to you about how they had a tie with Infosys and some of their people did well there. I remember this case because I remember my own driver's son had also gone there, and he became an engineer, and he was very successful, and he was absorbed later on in Infosys as an employee. And the whole family felt pretty proud of that person. This person was an attender's son, I mean a driver's son, and then he had become an engineer, and he had become a good employee of Infosys, and he was earning well, and he married his own colleague recently. And there are a lot of success stories like this. But the final thing is, I would say that the whole future of this program lies with the academia who are there here in large numbers, my own principals who are here, and all the students. The students need to be a little more focused. They have to decide what they would like to do. Many of them just enter the college because their parents ask them to come here. They actually are not very happy with the course. For all those students, I have a suggestion. Please pick up other hobbies. You never know, your own hobby can sort of be your profession tomorrow. And again, once having come to that particular place, if the lecturer there is not taking his own work seriously, then his time in the college becomes futile. I know myself that many of the times when the lecturer wasn't good, we wouldn't like to go to that college, to particular class, because we felt that there was no point in going to that class. That man anyway didn't teach well. So it's a real challenge to the lecturers that they should make themselves so much more efficient and interesting that a student would love to come to their class. And again, in this thing in our college education, we have again done a little more work on this side. We have conducted some academic audit last year of all the colleges just to say what is going wrong in the college so that the college principals and the lecturers refocus on what they can do to improve their own college. We have started a faculty forum where the lecturers are supposed to read something up on their own thing, and on a particular day on a month, they are supposed to discuss with all their colleagues. This is just to increase a little of research and a kind of learning habit among the lecturers themselves, because when I joined, we all felt that lecturers had the privilege of reading a lot of books, but I was aghast when one of my professors from Osmania said, once a person becomes a lecturer, he actually stops reading many things and he stops learning many things. This is, of course, not for all of them, but many of them. So this was something which we had to, again, reinvent. We also had a lot of training programs, and we invite our lecturers and principals to all such workshops like E-India. I would like to tell that majority of the crowd here are from my college education principals. They're all sitting here and imbibing what all is going on here, so that when they go back, they will, again, in their own districts, they will talk about this program and see that at least some of the colleges implement this program. We're also pushing the colleges to go for NAC gradation so that there's a better accountability and for autonomous status. These are some of the things, and like I said, the final weapon is in the hands of the faculty and the students. It is up to you all to decide what you would like to make of the next generation. If you all take your work seriously, you all would be making an AP which has a lot less unemployment ratios than what we have. Though my predecessor has showed us 30%, 50% of graduates as employability, one of the studies said less than 15% of the graduates were employable. That's a very sad state of affairs. And the other ironic part of it is that when we do faculty, when we do JKCs and when we do campus selections, we find that many of the students who are actually good know that they are good, so they wouldn't like to go for these small call center or whatever jobs, and they don't take this option. The ones who are actually in need of the job, who are not so good, will not get this job. Life is full of such ironies, and it is for us to really evaluate the whole situation and arm ourselves with better kind of efficiency so that we can face tomorrow more boldly. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. You made some excellent points. One of the very simple points with a lot of student community around here is what you spoke upon, not just getting through your syllabus and going through guides and passing examinations. You need to learn a lot of other things while you are in college. I mean, that is the whole reason why we wanted you to come to E-India, a conference like this, where you can witness some of the stalls, some of the exhibition expo, and sit in some of the seminars here. I think you can take up a litmus test. Let me see all the students raise their hands, just to see a count. Can all the students raise their hands? At least all the, okay, there's plenty of you here. How many of you feel confident that you can come on the stage and speak for 1 minute and make sense? I mean, I'll call you if you raise your hand. Just raise your hand. I don't see not even a single hand raised. So, one girl raised. It's good, So, yeah. Well, she wants to actually come and speak. Okay, fine, Yeah, what do you think? Yeah, sure. So, I mean, this session is for you, right? So, it's more than what we talk. I think you need to get something tangible. And here she is.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'm here to know what is JKC, and many students came here to know higher education and how to develop their educational skills and to grow in their lives. So many students have came here to know what the people are saying here, and now by seeing every stalls, I have get some knowledge that I can be some confident in my life, and by meeting all these people, I know how to be with some good in the society. The many people are here with their good educational skills. Today, many people and students and many colleges are visiting these type of job fairs. Many consultants and many job fairs and many were held in the many cities. So please come to these type of job fairs and develop your skills and know what they were teaching and what they were telling in the stalls, and try to develop your education and grow in up your life. Thank you.
Good job, Deepthi. I mean, I think that is the spirit, right? See, when you're in college and like Madam said, there's a lot more than what you need to do, a lot more than just getting a degree, right? Either you need to add value to your friends, or they need to add value to you. Otherwise, your relationships don't make any sense. Right? So when you're in college, it's a good platform to develop your social skills, for your communication skills. Think about something bigger than what you see, right? Visualize something, innovate, try to do some of those things. Okay, anyway, we'll go on to our next panelist, Mr. Pankaj Gupta. So Pankaj, I mean, there's a lot of graduates, engineers coming out, degree students coming out. I mean, we're talking about employability, and earlier speakers have alluded to about some numbers, 50% or less than 50% are employable. And not everybody should look for a job. I mean, I think there are very few jobs out there, and we should have some students coming out who are creating jobs. I mean, they should be enterprising in nature. I mean, and you coming from a management background and heading a management institute, what are your inputs there, and what do you advise the students here and all the other esteemed audience here?
Very good afternoon. Are we all awake? Very nice. It was really a treat to hear to Deepthi. I believe that the life of so many of the students would have totally changed. And it was also very nice to hear Mr. Raju and Sunita ji, and many of the things which I wanted to share, Sunita ji has already mentioned in her address. I would like to say that there is no bad student, nor there is any bad teacher. It is all a matter of situation. It is all a matter of their perspective. And also we see that many times we find out, okay, now after class 12, we have got 3 years or 4 years of good time where we can have a lot of fun. But we also have people who are very much clear what they want to do in these 2 to 3 years time. So it is all about our own inner self, what we think about, and what we really believe in that. So one thing which I want to share here is, what is MBA? MBA is most beautiful attitude. The head HR of Coke, who happens to be my student, he told me that we hire for attitude and we train for results. So we can talk about, employability. We should be having more of the industry council, academic council. We should be having so many experts, so many guest lecture. But I think the key here is, because see, Deepthi came here, she made a very live demonstration that a girl, how she has, among all the students alone, and she came here and, spoke. And I believe her life would be totally changed, and so will be of so many girls and boys who are sitting right here. I remember, even for me, I was a Hindi medium student, and from there I became the topper of the civil service. It was a different thing that I left the job and I came into the education sector. But I remember there is always a time when you decide, okay, I can do something different. So the fact of the matter is, are you aware about who you are and what kind of possibilities and what kind of potential is lying within you? Because we know if you are like an apple seed, the best soil for you is Himachal Pradesh or Kashmir. If you are a seed of a coconut, better you should find a soil like Kerala. So, knowing what kind of seed of possibilities are there within you, for what purpose you have been created. So, knowing that is very, very important. Then knowing, okay, what is your passion? You know that a lot of students are sitting here. If we have to study, we will have our face on the book. But when it is a matter of Facebook, we may remain awake throughout the night. Is that correct? My dear students, are you listening? So many likes I got, I posted this picture, I got so many likes, ye ho gaya, and all these things, So when it is a matter of your own inner passion, nobody is required, okay, you do this or you do that. Everything comes from within. Similarly, people say, I am not able to hire so-and-so because they are weak in communications. I will say, nobody is weak in communication. It is all a matter of confidence. Because somebody who is not communicating well in a setting like this, see them, how they are interacting when they are sitting in a coffee cafe day, or when they are talking to their family members, or where they are talking about generally what they feel about life. So it is all a matter of igniting your own inner confidence, and for that, lot of skills are needed. And where life skills, lot of thing about meditation, contemplation, silence, and getting in touch with who you really are. And that will make a huge difference in all of us. Recently there was a book by Shrikant Datar, who was in Harvard. He spoke about 3 things. One was being, second was doing, third was having. So people talk about you learn this, like knowing, then doing, and then having. But there are very few people who talk about what is your being and how much impact are we making on the being, whether it is the being of the students or the being of the professor. Like what Sunita ji was sharing, that what professors are they really willing to learn? Are they willing to read? What is Guru? Guru is somebody who removes the darkness. But how many of us are really present to that? Anybody who can give should first have it. How many of the Gurus are actually having it within them, to which they can really impart to other people? So, lot of learning, lot of unlearning, which is most important, and also relearning is a need of the hour. So, I just want to share 2 things. One is on the part of the student, because it is very passionate thing. I'm very passionate about it. I can keep talking for a long time, but since with the limitation of time, I will limit my message to student and for the institution. As regard the students are concerned, they should know what is the purpose of their life and what they really want to do in life. I'm not saying let them make a very big strategy, 5 year, what will I be, 10 year and 15 year. But at least you should know what you're going to do 5 years. And at least what you're going to do whole of the day. And then writing your cash diary every day. Cash, you may say, okay, this professor is being very materialistic. No. When I went to IIM Ahmedabad, professor told us to maintain our cash diary every day. So then he went on to explain, I'm not talking about CASH, I'm talking about KASH, cash. That is K for knowledge, A for attitude, S for skills, and H for habits. So the student have to make a very serious attempt to see how much of the knowledge, attitude, skills, and habits we have improved throughout the day. What is my learning from my own life today? And they will be the best notes to your own self. Because the teacher, how much they can give to you, hardly, it has been the research. I was recently in Harvard. We realized, after a lot of discussion, that around 25 to 30% of the knowledge can be imparted in a classroom. But the rest of the thing, either you do live projects or you learn from your peers. So, a big part of the learning has to come from within you, and for which you cannot blame a professor. You have to take self-responsibility. Because we keep hearing, good teacher make good student. I feel otherwise. I always feel good student make good teachers. Why you are just listening? When teacher is teaching, you ask, okay, professor, can you give me some practical example? Be ahead of the professor. You do research, you do a lot of live projects. If something is being taught about, say, marketing, you do your own study. Okay, if FMCG industry, this is the trend happening. Automobile industry, this is happening. Come and make presentation. If somebody is talking thermodynamics, you do study beforehand, make your own small groups, and so that things are much better. And the professor will feel, okay, now this class students are very bright. I should better be prepared, much better. And also, as I was saying, how will you know that what you are good at? There are tools available. Like you see, MBTI is there, Thomas profiling test is there, and our own Vedic model of RVY. There is a Ruchi, Yogyata, Vishwas. I keep reading a lot of ancient literature. So it talks about what is your natural Ruchi, interest. Then do you have a matching capability? Like if you say that, okay, I want to be a financial analyst, then you should know, okay, for this, am I good in maths? Whether I like numbers? That is, matching ability. And then Vishwas, faith. How much confident are you that you will be successful? And what happens? There is a law of attraction. I'm sure many of us have read the book Secret, that once we believe in something, the entire universe will start conspiring in such a way that we get that. But what happens in our own heart, we are not sure that we will get it. However, when we go to a restaurant, when we order a dish on the menu, we are always sure that, okay, this dish will be served to us. But when we think about our own innermost dream, we have our own doubts. We live life only once. So we have to make the most of it. So make your own plan, not on the basis of what you're good at, not on the basis of your SWOT analysis, but on the basis of what you are passionate about. And then work towards it with a full dedicated mission. And then the institution can support such initiatives. Like there are some students who want to go for automobile engineering. They can create a nice automobile club. Those students can be given a lot of incentive, a lot of support. Okay, you go study, do research, find out what is happening in Detroit, what is happening in Germany, and then let them make presentations. And also, this can be serving not only as a research, but also as a good networking event, where the institution, like the placement head or the alumni head, they can support that club in creating a networking event, maybe somewhere in the college or maybe in some other outside location, where you invite people from automobile industry and let the student, present their research. And, because the industry people are also very busy people. So when they come, they also expect some value addition. Although there are a lot of people from the industry who want to now give to the students and the community. But still, we have to think how we can add more and more value there. Like one of the things which I did when I was director of Symbiosis, we created a Harvard Club. Like we had got a complete books of Harvard, and we know that the executives are very busy. So we told our student, you have to summarize a book in 4 slides. And then whenever we were having those networking events, our student will presenting 2 book review. Just in 8 slides, 2 books are captured. And then we also created a Facebook page where we used to upload those presentations. So we were getting a lot of hits, and our brand visibility and Facebook profile, LinkedIn profile, all went up very well. So it is all a matter of co-creating value, to where the knowledge and support will be provided by the students, and which is coming from their passion, and not due to fear or insecurity. Because many times our performance is not good because we are having, agar ye nahi padha, if you have not studied this, then maybe I'll get fail. If I fail, then what will happen? I will get poor grade, I will not get a job, I will not get married, and so on and so forth. If we feel we are already perfect human being, we are already perfect, and then we have to see what is my potential and how we can excel in that field. So that is where the role of scriptures, the role of literature, the role of the life skills, if they are taught in the right way, that plays a very, very important part. You see, we talk about how much industry input should be there in a curriculum. And we also know that we have got people, academic council is there, where we say all our curriculum are being vetted by the industry, and so on and so forth. But the real thing is how much of that industry curriculum is really relevant and how it is taught in the classroom. Now it is a institution has to take a call, whether it is like a walk and chalk professors, or if you look into the session plan, you see, okay, session from 5 to 9, this topic will be covered. How it will be covered? Discussion. So if you are leaving that thing so loose, then you have to be very much clear that quality will not be delivered. Because if you talk about academic audit, you need to first get the measurement system right. Suppose you do not keep it loose from 5 to 9, you say in 5, this topic will be covered, this is the learning outcome, and how this learning outcome will be delivered by so-and-so case. And then you also have a system that whether this learning outcome is being delivered or it is not delivered. And also when you're inviting people from the industry, sometimes they come and they will just share only their story. When I was in this company, I did this. When I was in this company, I did that. As if that was the truth. Truth always keeps changing as per the situation, as per the economic reality and so on. So sometimes the people from the industry whom you are inviting, you also need to work with them. Okay, sir, we want so-and-so learning outcome being delivered, and this will be like so-and-so. Like when I invite people from the industry to teach an overview of process costing, so I will request them, like I invited somebody from JK Cements. So that person I have already spoken with, and that person is already coming with a, what I can say, video clip of their industry and saying, okay, I make cement so-and-so, it is this problem happening on transfer pricing. And in this way, it is looking like as if students are having a clear industry view. Rather, they have not gone there, but still by that video and stopping at the regular interval and telling, okay, here this learning is taking place, here that learning is taking place. So relating with the practice. So this is another thing, how you invite industry, how you also work with them, and how to keep engaged dialogue with them. Because industry also want to support you, because the students are having a lot of fresh new eyes. I know many of my students have saved millions of dollars in companies just by the industry tour and by the consulting which I was doing with them. So I believe a lot of possibilities are there, because and also today's hot skill may be tomorrow's cold skill. Today's hot knowledge may be tomorrow's cold knowledge. So inner capability has to be created. Like one person.
Dr. Gupta, you might want to.
Yeah, I'm just finishing. Somebody who has made, like, say, 1,000 operations. It is not possible that he or she will be successful in 1,001th operation. Because there may be a possibility that 1,001 patient might be totally different. This doctor has not come across at all. So there, what is important? Your own critical thinking ability, how you think on the feet, how you are able to solve the problem at that moment. So I believe those kind of abilities we need to develop, and students have to take self-ownership, like Eklavya, who without any guidance still he said, I'll be the best in the world. So a lot of such things are possible, and but finally everything will be driven by the passion and ownership, both on the part of students and on the part of faculty. If you feel something is possible, it is very much possible. Thank you very much.
Dr. Gupta, you made some very interesting points. The ones that caught my attention at least are, you don't totally depend on the system around you. This is one thing that we come across as parents sending our kids to schools in Hyderabad. People often come and ask us, what is the best school, where do I send my kid? And I keep telling them, don't depend on school for 100%. School will only give you some 20 to 30%. The rest is up to the kid and up to what you do with your children, and not to the school to do the full thing. I mean, I think that is a very important point. You don't really totally depend on your teachers or your system to carry you. I mean, they give you a certain percent, probably 20 to 30%, but the rest is up to you. And then you have to take care of yourself. And another important point, I think a very striking point that Dr. Gupta mentioned was formation of clubs. When there are really some very interesting things happening in the city. I don't know how many of you know. For people who are interested in, say, astronomy, there's an astronomy club. I mean, they go and do stargazing. I mean, they know when asteroids are going to come close to Earth's surface. They watch other planets. They do a lot of those things. And they become very knowledgeable in general because it's an interdisciplinary science. They know when the comet, when a next biggest comet is going to come very close to the surface of the Earth. They talk about some of the really cool things, about telescopes. Some of the things that I think students need to know, more than what they learn in college and from their textbooks. They need to become very knowledgeable about a lot of other things other than what you get through your textbooks. There are clubs on, you take a bicycling club. I mean, people bicycle. I mean, I'm part of that club. We took a bicycle from Hyderabad and went to Tirupati. There are clubs, sailboating club. There is an adventure club. I mean, there is a food lovers club. There are people forming clubs. I mean, it's a great venue for socialization, exhibition of your skills, communicate, get along with other kids. I mean, I think that is more important than your academics in general. I'm not saying your academics is not important. I mean, they're very important, but these things actually set the platform for you to take it to the next level. So with that, I think we'll go to the next panelist. I'm going to call Dr. Sriram Murthy. He's from Technium, and he's going to talk upon a very interesting topic called analytics. Even I am not aware of it completely. I would like to see what he's going to speak, and I want you to pay attention and see what he has.
Thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to be here this afternoon. I think between the people in this room, we probably have the ability to influence the thinking of lakhs of students in this country, and it's a privilege to be speaking to you. Like Mr. Abhinath Reddy was saying, I would like to approach employability from a different angle. This is the angle of educational analytics. Analytics is essentially looking at data and trying to find patterns in data and then acting on those patterns. The fundamental belief, and some dignified speakers before me have expressed this, what you can measure, you can improve. So in our institutions, or even when you are self-learning, if you can measure what you know and what you have learned so far, what is the best thing to learn next, then you will be able to learn in a faster, more effective way. So there, in the industry today, other than education, in the industry, there is a lot of emphasis on looking at data, finding patterns in data. Words like analytics, predictive analytics, big data, data mining, machine learning. These have become, fairly popular words in the industry, not only in India, all over the world. There is billions of dollars of business happening on these. But I believe, and we have believed for the last decade, that data has a lot of effect. Looking at the data has a lot of effect on how you can personalize education to an individual student, and also in matchmaking between the student and the industry. So what I would like to do today is to give you just 4 case studies, quickly, probably a minute for each, to show you an idea and what is being implemented elsewhere, and this is all very recent, 2012, 2013, and then talk about what we can do in our institutions or in our self-learning pursuits. The first one is that quality institutions of the future must be data-driven. This is my belief. When we say data-driven, we mean that anyone who is making a decision in the institution should have the right data to support it and should make the decision in a rational way based on some data. And this could be the head of the institution, or it could be a student who is deciding what class to take next, or what, whether to go towards being an entrepreneur, to take up a job, or further education. They need to have enough data about themselves and the environment before they can make the right decision. And the example that I'm showing here is one from Arizona State University. I won't go into the detail of that graph. It is just to show you that something exists. If you go and look up, once you, on Arizona State University and analytics, you will be able to see these on the internet. Basically, what they have done is built a campus-wide data collection and data reporting system. So anyone will be able to go on the campus intranet and look at, let's say it's a professor who is trying to decide a class time. Then they will be able to see the data about the students, about the other classes, and take a decision appropriately based on data. If it's a head of the institution deciding where to invest a fund, where to invest a certain amount of money next year, or what companies to call for placement, they would have the necessary data available with them. This data doesn't come out of nowhere. The institutions, visionary institutions, need to make a move and say that I want to create a data infrastructure for my college, or for my university, or for my school. And we believed that this is very, very important. The data not only helps for internal things in the university or institution, but when your students are ready to take up a job, this data, along with the students studying data and patterns, can be made available to the industry, and vice versa. Industry can seek the right candidates based on the data. And this kind of matchmaking between the student and the industry will increase the employability. The reason is because today the industry is choosing students when they come to your campus probably based on a couple of days of interaction and probably based on a couple of numbers, your percentage or what you have done before. And that may not necessarily represent who you are, what your internal strengths are. I completely agree with Dr. Gupta that no student is bad. And there is a certain amount of data that you have captured about the student over a period of time, and if that is made available to the industry in a easy and understandable form, then they can see which students' relative strengths are what and choose the right kind of people. This is one example, and the second example I would like to give is for the students themselves. Mr. Raju has asked a very relevant question. Are you here by chance? A student in a course, is she here by chance or by choice? Today I see that it is a lot of the time by chance. It may be because the parents have influenced, someone else has influenced, or there is just a societal pressure to become an engineer or a doctor. Because of those things, people end up in courses. There have been, systems built. These are predictive analytics systems. I won't go into the technology part of it. This is essentially data mining that's happening here. So you look at what the student has studied, the kinds of marks that they have gotten over a period of time, and you look at the skill sets required for different professions. And at the school level, it could be as early as upper primary level, or it could be secondary school. You can make a decision, or you can make a recommendation, a smart counseling on what professions are suitable for the mindset of the student. Where does this passion of the student lie? And what are the professions where the student is likely to be successful at based on past data? This is a rational decision that we can make. So there are such systems implemented at individual university level, and I have given an example of one system which is in a university in Arizona, and the other institutions that are listed on the screen here. But to apply to India, I'm not saying that these systems are directly applicable as they are to the Indian context. We must work on improving or refining these systems to suit our needs. I believe that there is a lot of opportunity at the secondary school and upper primary school level to assess students not only on the basis of psychometric tests that are conducted once, but on the basis of data that is collected over a period of time, if such data infrastructures exist, to decide or to counsel them on the right kind of positions to go to, jobs to take up. This is the second utility of analytics. The third is to measure the learning impact itself, and here I would like to focus specifically on teacher training. A lot of institutions, government included, Sunita ji was talking about the student-teacher ratio and the quality of teachers in the colleges. And Mr. Raju was also mentioning all good teachers from JNTU are brought together and they are being made available to the students. So it's absolutely important that we have teachers that have the skill sets that learn continuously on their job. So for the teacher training programs, there are examples, case studies globally where you have data mining applied to the teacher's performance data, the performance data before the training, and what has been imparted in the training, and what happens after the training, let's say in the next 6 months. And quantitatively, the impact of the teacher, the impact of this training program on the teacher is measured. And I believe that such systems are a necessity given the amount of time and money that government as well as private institutions in this country spend on training teachers, whether they are at the engineering level, a vocational institute level, or at the school level. So this is the third example of the application of analytics. The fourth one, and the final one in my presentation today, is for self-learning. If I am a student who is, today there is one difference between when I was studying and when I see students studying today, is that enormous amount of learning resources are available to you at the click of a button. You have so much of videos, e-learning courses, documents, etc. that are available to you. How do you know where you stand? Through this whole maze of content available, do you just wander aimlessly, or is there a way to go in a structured fashion and learn what it is that you want to learn? You set your goal, and that goal translates to learning a few steps, and at every point of time you can look at yourself and say, you can look about yourself, you can look at a dashboard which tells you that in this particular thing, in calculus, this is where you stand. You are 35 out of 100. This is not a score that is being given by a university, this is this is only for your growth. And digital learning gives a lot of opportunities to measure the student. Something has been said about this in different areas. If you go and look at this digital learning measurement tracking, you can find those details. I'm not going to go into it. But digital learning gives a lot more opportunity, in my opinion, than a classroom to measure students, especially when you want to teach a large number of students together. So we would like to make use of this data and customize education. I have written here a few examples of people doing this. Newton is the most well-known example, the bottom box there, where there's a large number shown, 295 million recommendations served. Newton makes recommendations based on a student's learning pattern, a personalized recommendation that, maybe it looks like you don't understand the fundamentals of probability from the test that you just took or from the lesson that you just studied. Why don't you go back and read this base material on probability? This kind of personalized recommendations to the student can be given when they're doing e-learning. And there are other companies that are doing, we ourselves are trying to be in, trying to make an impact in this space. And we are coming from a vocational skills perspective. Can we tell that this particular, say, worker in an assembly plant, if trained well, can become supervisor in the shortest amount of time compared to the other workers? Or this person seems to have an eye for quality, so he should be in the quality assurance team rather than the current team that she is in. And that kind of personalized decisions, personalized recommendations can be done using analytics. All of these points I'm making in the context of my title, which is that this is time for institutions and universities to look at collecting data and using that data for data-driven decision-making instead of doing it through experience, through hunch. Experience and hunch are very good. I'm not saying the data is a replacement for it, but they get enriched when you have access to the real data. Things become much more accountable and measurable. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Dr. Sriramurthy Garu, that was a very interesting presentation. I guess I'm curious to know how many of us ask this question, what are we really passionate about, especially at a very early age in our career? Most of us ask that question maybe around 35 or 40, what do we want to do in life? I think we need to start asking that question very early in life, maybe when we are 15 or maybe even 10. What am I passionate about in life? What do I want to do? And would I be successful in doing that? I think that slide was, it's revealing to me. I never asked that question when I was very young, at least. I just took it by chance and not by choice. For the most part, I'm happy to be successful right now, but looking back, I think we can preach even though we didn't practice, but I think the generations have changed. I think the demands are more now. We are operating in a globalized community where a lot is expected from you and you need to adapt yourselves. So I think it's very important to ask those two questions at least, in my opinion. What are we passionate about and are we good at it? Right? Anyway, so we go on to the next panelist. Is Mr. M.P. Pillai from Tamil Nadu, from NEELIT. He heads training for the NEELIT in Tamil Nadu, and he trains students who are graduated out of engineering. So could you please explain what you're doing and give our student community some inputs?
Good afternoon, everybody. I'll straight away go into the topic of today's discussion. In fact, it's a very appropriate forum to discuss on the critical need for industry-academic interface, which makes the student employable. In this context, I would like to introduce my institution, which is doing this kind of activities, that is bridging the gap between the formal education and what the industry require by offering short duration value addition programs. So I just 2 slides, I'll just give a brief introduction about the organization. We are called National Institute of Electronics and Information Technology. This is a scientific society under the Ministry of Communication IT. An initiative started in the 80s, basically to make awareness of computer education. Then later on, it got merged with a couple of other societies engaged in training and research activities. Now, as a whole, we are called National Institute of Electronics and Information Technology. Here, I would like to mention one of the society merged with this is called Center for Electronic Design Technology. This was started in 80s, late 80s, basically to bridge the this gap between the academic streams and what the industry needs. A couple of Center for Electronic Design Technologies were set up with the help of World Bank project and the IISc Bangalore. It was a successful model, creating industry-ready professionals through various training programs. And we have presence in 16 locations throughout the country. I don't want to go into details. And the activities-wise, we have various schemes. So the uniqueness of our organization is we are both into formal and non-formal education. I'll come to the difficulties in formal education. And we are doing both as formal as well as non-formal education. And various short duration courses based on the requirement of industry time to time, we do it. And examination and certificate, we are the only examination certificate body throughout the country, especially in the field of IT education. Also, some of our centers are equipped with industry services, projects, consultants, and other things. See, now we come to the need for industry-academia interface. We all know that there is insufficient or lack of appropriate skills for the industries. And even the World Bank report, 2009, it has highlighted that the shortage of skills is a major constraint for Indian industries. We started 10, 15 years, we are realizing this fact, and our higher education department has taken a lot of initiatives by increasing the input for the higher education sector. And one place you can see a statistic saying that 1998 to 2000, for a decade, we have increased our input to the engineering into 800 times. So this, now still it is again 5 years more, now it will be definitely crossing 1,000 times. We have increased our engineering graduate output. So this leads to a decline in the quality of students entering into the engineering stream and teaching, as well as creating the unemployability. See what the industry expects. See, according to widely quoted report NASSCOM, see some of other members also quoted this. 2005 report, it is 25% of engineering graduates are only eligible. Anyway, most of academicians, including myself, we don't agree with this. It is also the fact that industry expect from day one the recruits to be productive. The industry expect that as soon as you are employed, you should be able to deliver from the day onwards. This is the situation now. I remember when I came out of engineering 15 years back, all the public sectors used to conduct induction program for 6 months or 1 year program, BHEL or NTPSC, all these organizations. Now the trend has changed. The expectation of industry has changed. The employees, the industries, they link these to shortcomings in the education system. The skills, if you see that the industry we have interacted, they can be classified into three factors. The core employability skill, the professional skill they expect, and communication skills. This core employability and communication skills, or you can say now soft skills, everyone talks about soft skills, it is common to all industries. There is one more skill called a professional skill. This is an industry specific or sector specific skill, which needs an industry input to develop this kind of skills. Of course, the core employability skill like your integrity, self-discipline, motivation, reliability, these things you can include in the school level curriculum itself, and we are doing it to some extent. Even communication skills also, a lot of initiatives to every engineering curriculum or non-engineering courses are equipped with communication skill programs. The professional skills needs definitely an input from the industry. So here, this leaves an important role of curriculum planners and institutions to prepare a graduate to meet their demand. See how we make the curriculum so that the professional skills expected by the industry are met. That's very important. So now, unless we involve the industry in curriculum making or involve the industry in teaching or every part of our education system, it will be very difficult. So now, the limitation from the education side is we have frequent updation of curriculum is not possible because of our regulations. So there are some initiatives by the government like TechCube. Most of the from the engineering institution, they know about the TechCube program. Due to this program, we have granted autonomy to many institutions and deemed universities have come. This allows us to start some courses which industry needs. Because particularly industry in electronics and IT domain are fast obsolescence. Every 6 months we need to teach new things. Our present university system doesn't permit us to change the syllabus that frequently. So these institutions like deemed universities or institutions having autonomy have changed their pattern and they are frequently offering courses. There are some institutions in Tamil Nadu, along with the industry, they are offering courses. So industry is also actively participating in the program. Jointly, they are doing some MTech, BTech program, and the pass up from the courses are absorbed by the industry. This is what we require throughout the nation. This kind of activities are required in all the fields. And the role of NEELIT, this our organization, we are bridging the gap through non-formal courses. What we do is we interact with the industry, we get their requirement, and we announce and conduct short duration 6 months, 1 year courses, which may improve the employability of the individual. So we give more practical knowledge. See, more engineering graduate when he comes out, he is of more theoretical nature. We give more hands-on. The capacity building challenges is now finding the appropriate skill. What the industry need. See, they say competencies. Industry says you are not employable. Students are not employable. What they need, we don't know. Unless we know the competencies required by the industry, we cannot develop a curriculum. So that's the reason government has taken initiative, NSDC, National Skill Development Corporations, and Sector Skill Council are formed. In that they have Electronic Sector Skill Council, various Sector Skill Council. They are trying to identify the competencies required by the industry, and based on the competencies, we create the curriculum. And the occupational standards, they call it. Is already the Sector Skill Councils are doing this job. Once these occupational standards are ready, then our institution will be able to do a better job by creating an engineer suitable for an industry who can be productive from the first day onwards. So I have made some case study on electronic industry requirement. I'll not go in detail. See, this volume of business in electronic hardware. See, we have done good work in IT. We are known to be IT giants throughout the world. Wherever you go, they say Indians, you are great in doing the IT job. Now, 10, 15 years we have done enough IT. Now we have to shift to the other areas. The electronic hardware. See, we are the largest consumer of electronic product. See, that's what. So this by 2020. We need $400 billion electronic product that exceeds oil import. That's what the statistics says. So now we have to create a skilled person to cater the industry engaged in the hardware sector. So this I have prepared some skill that because of shortage of time I will not go into this. My slides will be available in my portal. You can download and see. So there is a potential employment growth only in the electronics hardware sector. This now 2014 it is 70,000. By 2020 it is 200,000. That much is there. Now the present academic program, I just want to highlight, we have over-emphasis on information technology. I already told, every student, whether engineering or electronics or mechanical, civil, everyone goes towards IT-oriented. This thing, project, anything they take IT-oriented, more of IT-oriented. And this unstructured instructions and development, design development, lack of formal training in industrial establishment. That is relevant to today's session. So you have bigger industrial establishment and R&D laboratories have some in-house training programs. They are having many industries. But they don't encourage the formal education students to do their training. See, part of your NBA or NCA accreditation, you make many MOEs. How many of the institutions are seriously interacting with the industries? How many industries are seriously participating in your curriculum development? So this is what we are lagging. So we want the industries, bigger industrial house to come forward. The status of reputed academia, I don't want to go into this may be a controversial. They are into mega research ideas and vision, which is a long term. Then develop implementation prototype trials and secondary. They publish the papers and they do see that the end products are coming. So money, time are not significant. There are poor resource sharing among the institutions. The challenges in academia industry. So industry focus mainly on short-term benefits, work on sharp deadlines. That's their business. Large gap in vision and actual business trade. Focus on product and solution as per the market demand. What is required in the market, they will do. There is a demand for software development, every industry will go into software development. So focus on product design. Lack expertise in converting research results into deliverable solution products. No industry is ready to convert the research work done in our institution, convert it into a product and sell it in the Indian market. So there is a need for bridging this gap. See, this can be achieved by suitable ecosystem. The industry always says, to do an industry, we need a complete ecosystem. They want the components, they want the manpower, they want the government, friendly policies, all these things are there. This ecosystem is the job of the government. So establishing linkages of ideas, concept, research field, trial, these are all the requirements. There is MNCs, there are some industries like National Instruments, Texas Instruments, they are those who are in the electronic fields, they know. They are doing some good job. They are targeting the curriculum-oriented requirement. There are some hidden interests, but still they are doing some training, collaborating with the colleges. See, they work through academic licensing program and provide product promotional trainings mostly. Anyway, that is also to some extent students are getting some practical knowledge. The large EMS companies, electronic manufacturing service or any manufacturing service, MNCs, they have their own training establishments. And or they outsource their training requirement. The problem is with the SMEs or a small industries. We need more SMEs. Yeah, I'll finish it. See, companies like L&T, Reliance, Wipro, TCS, Cognizant, they have their own training facilities and they are doing a training. And TVS and L&T, they have gone one step ahead by starting their own polytechnics. See, why I'm telling all this, industry should come forward to do this. So then only we can improve the employability of the graduates. So one more initiative by SSN, ICL, Hindustan Computers, they are doing a very good engineering institution in Chennai. This is a good job. See, why not many companies, many big MNCs do come forward to do this. Another initiative is IIIT models. The government has initiated with a thing that is in the IT area. We don't want only in the IT area, we want in other areas. There are many good chemical companies, they can do, start some institutions. Electronics companies, they can do. So this is sort this IAPIT capacity building. There are many challenges in doing these challenges unless we need a very active participation from the industry. That's what that just one, what we are expecting from the industry, they have to play a very provocative role in identification of skills and require an associated devising mechanism to develop competent human resource. And the education training programs must align their curriculum, pedagogy to occupation standards. Occupation standards will be ready within 2-3 months by the sector skill council and based on the requirement, industry requirement. So accredit the curriculum, industry internship assessment, certification may be facilitated. These are some of the industry expectation from our side to the industry. So we have started some schemes on electronic system design and manufacturing, electronic design, all these courses in the non-formal sector. And part of program we are planning to be conducted at the industry. So here we need the cooperation from the industry so that industry can accommodate these students for their around 200 hours duration so that they can get hands-on in their equipments. So here industry support is participate by offering these programs, provide hands-on facility on-job training, sharing of expertise in course curriculum design, and encouraging placement to qualifiers, tie-up for joint sponsored laboratory setup, and joint initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pillai. You made some very interesting points, specifically when industries like TVS, they start their own institutes and create some polytechnic graduates. But one other interesting thing that is happening is we have more engineers coming out, and then less polytechnics and even lesser number of ITIs coming out of the state, where the reality should be the other way around. So we'll go on to the next panelist, and the last panelist for the day, Mr. Amit Sharma. He's going to wind it up, and he has a lot of experience in higher and technical education as Deputy Secretary from Jammu and Kashmir. So that is one state we would all like to know what is happening there, what students are doing, how are they getting employable, and are they finding jobs, and what's the situation out there. Mr. Amit Sharma.
Good evening, everybody. It's been a pleasure coming out here. In fact, I was part of one of the initial tracks or sessions in this wholesome conference in e-governance. Yesterday morning, we started off the program with financial inclusion, and today it's been again a pleasure to be part of another parallel session going on in education. So I won't take much of your time because I know a lot has been spoken about IT initiatives taken out in education sector and the employability, but I'll touch upon few little things. Yeah, everybody wanted to know a little bit more about Jammu and Kashmir, as it's famous for many things. So let me just touch upon the cards so far as education sector is concerned. First of all, I would like to compliment the heads of those institutions who have brought their young students out here to get first-hand exposure of this particular kind of conference. I'm delighted to see this kind of enthusiasm in this part of the country, where students are really enthusiastic, and especially I was talking to the panelists that it's really good that somebody among us, the students, has come up on the stage and shown the drive, the fire, which is a must. I also wanted to touch upon few things, but good enough, really good enough. Pankaj has spoken much more than I would have actually spoken. So the fire within is very, very important. Anything in life is to be done. So he has spoken enough. Purpose, your existence, everything is a must. In fact, on many forums, many places, I quote two popular examples. The age which actually, Amma was talking, like, right age is when you are a kid and you're growing up into an adolescent. You should know that what is the purpose. I quote the examples of two famous personalities. One is Sachin. Sachin Tendulkar would not have been Sachin had he not identified and found out what he is made for. And second, very popular, maybe this part everywhere in the country, Mr. Amitabh Bachchan. His father was a poet. He would not have become that big. He is now a big, big star. So he has created something, the kind. So what I mean to say, like, you should know what you are made for. I won't throw much light because the experts have already spoken much about it. Little bit more aspects before talking about J&K, I would like to talk about, Mr. Raju talked about, the kind of analytics which has come up, which is highly appreciable. We find in higher education, technical education, in universities, when I used to deal with them few years back, I found that things are yet in an evolutionary stage. But today it's heartening to find out there are certain consultancies who are actually taking it so seriously. Mr. Murthy is talking about data analysis, analytical part of finding out the data and then going about the things scientifically. I know some concerns in the country also are focusing, maybe these concepts have come from abroad, like there are certain organizations who are using scientific ways like thumb impressions, thumb rules and such things have come up, where actually the aptitude of a youngster, of a kid can be found out. What the person has, genetic codification, some kind of, those analysis. So data analysis always has been an interesting field, and in the era of e-governance, where we are actually flooded with a lot of choices, lot of methodologies, why not utilize them? All the youngsters need to be awake about, which lines are best suited to them. It's not always a stereotype, hysterical decision making. We should come into your minds that you have to become a doctor, you have to become an engineer, you have to become a teacher, you have to become a civil servant. You should always know what you're made for. Every field is very much equally comfortable be it technical, be it non-technical, be it even sports, arts. We have a lot of potential and things to grow. So we should keep ourselves open for the things. Good amount of things have been spoken by Madam. I was just recalling those days. During those days of higher education, we also have somebody like Director Colleges who looks upon the same kind of work which Madam is doing. It's fantastic actually. You have to have, I know how much responsibility oriented job this is, because we used to deal with the person who used to hold this post, and I know making all colleges of the universities work, and that too in a very efficient manner, is a Herculean task. So again, a wonderful presentation by Madam. Everybody must have seen that how tough it is, and yet a lot of variety has to be incorporated, vocational trainings have to be brought into it, and many such things. And even our friend out here talked about the job opportunities, the new things which are coming up with these institutions, and was watching for the support of the industry. Such initiatives need to be appreciated because they are a must. So far as J&K is concerned, we have been doing a lot of initiatives so far as implementation of things via e-governance, or for that matter in general employability opportunities are concerned. I never want to blame anybody for any kind of situation. Jobs or employability always have had its own craze in the country since ages. We know that everybody is seeking after jobs, and there's been a big divide in the ratio over the years, since independence until now. We have seen over the years, decade after decade, the gap between demand and supply has been increasing, and it has increased manifold to a level. Now, it's almost impossible to find out jobs or only expect jobs in a system. Yet, the systems are naturally, they are also adapting themselves, evolving themselves with the new challenges. Similar, one kind of evolutionary thing which came up in J&K 3-4 years back, when I was actively associated with such things, it was J&K Overseas Employment Corporation. I'm talking about this corporation which got incorporated with this particular objective, that our youth who are very much educated, even graduates, postgraduates, even we find people who are only skilled like ITIs and such kind of trainings, vocational trained. So we thought that we have a wonderful market out there in Middle East. As you know, we talked about Kerala, such postcard economy states, and many Punjab, our neighbors. So this kind of initiative came up, and then we thought that we'll gel up with the industry and we'll invite. So as a matter of fact, we formally, this corporation came into existence 3 to 4 years back, and now it's working with its headquarters out obviously in Jammu and Kashmir, but branching out in Delhi and Mumbai, and we are coordinating with different ministries of overseas corporations and departments, and even we are presenting our thing, and we are trying to send people outside also who are skilled ones, not just restricting them to the boundaries of Jammu and Kashmir. So similar kind of initiatives are coming up in industry, in different colleges, in different technical institutes. People are coming up with more analytical kind of things. But here, to my young friends, I want to press upon one thing. Never ever, have a typical mindset of employability in terms of being job seekers. Try to have one step further, try to be job creators. Even if at the microest level, you do take some initiatives, I tell you that is going to be fortune turners, not only for yourself, but for many people who will get associated with you. This is one of the advice I usually give up in my forums, and even in my previous postings, different places, far-flung areas, I have had the opportunity to serve in Jammu and Kashmir, as they wanted to know. So one experience I can quote with you, I was sub-divisional magistrate some few years back in one of the most underdeveloped areas in state, in Jammu and Kashmir, in district Udhampur. And there I found a lot of people having a lot of frustrations for government jobs, employability problem, same kind of things. There actually I thought, I am always for ICT, for e-governance and such things. what we could do. So I started a streak of creating some kinds of workshops. What I did was almost every quarter or every second month, I was organizing a workshop with the help of MSME or some kind of state level organizations where NGOs or such organizations were coming up. They were giving some job oriented trainings. One last example which I did before I actually left the place was a workshop on mobile repairing and learning skills with some kind of incentives also for startups. Very small kiosks or shops we told them to open, and it was almost for 2 months. And I tell you, we trained almost 250 to 300 people in my headquarters of the subdivision. And today I'm getting the feedback that almost half or more than half of such guys have their own shops. They have employed also 2 people of their areas, and they are masters of their field, and they are too very satisfied with what they learned at that point of time. So what I mean to say here is self-employability should be one of the best options. Self-entrepreneurship, be it in the form of a miniature, in the form of a very small kind of task which you take in your hands, should be your motto. It should not be like you always have to get jobs. Jobs are okay, but if you start some small ventures, be it your engineering background or any kind of technical background or non-technical background, create your own ventures, try to gel up as friends, create some groups, as wonderfully told by the group lead also, like he's talking about clubs and all. Keep on meeting, have informal chats, try to create a correlation between the technology available today. Just not use Facebooks or such social media for the heck of using. Try to make the practical usage of such things, try to create some job opportunities, try to create some wonderful things for yourself. I can assure you, sky is the limit. The only thing which is required is the right approach. As my friend already told many things, I won't repeat. The approach has to be right, the aptitude, the attitude, the skill set, the knowledge and exposure and confidence level. Such things are a must. Sky is the limit. Such workshops are the best platforms. We guys are there to help you out. Or even you will have better experts among us, your faculties, teachers. I'm sure the faculty part who have joined here, come here, will take something out of this workshop and definitely apply it when they go back to their institutes. So I know it's very late. I'll just sum up with these words only and just tell you to be positive and always be ready for employment opportunities, especially self-employment opportunities in e-governance field and in general. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Sharma. The Commissioner College Education has a meeting at 4:30 in the Secretariat, so she has to leave. Let's give her a big round of applause for her participation here and for all the inputs. Thank you, Madam. Okay, in this context, I would like to speak for a minute or so. We made a visit to US. We visited MIT specifically. It is the #1 engineering college or the engineering institute on the globe, considered to be. And if you really look at such an institute, they incubate 200 companies every year. Students coming out of MIT create 200 new corporations every year. And if you look at the market capitalization of all these companies that were created by MIT over the last 10 to 20 years, it exceeds the GDP of India. So such is the firepower that a university, that a really good college can create. So what are we doing in this context? The government of AP, we are partnering with ISB, which is a management institute in Hyderabad. It's one of the top management institutes. And we are creating an entrepreneurship course in the colleges, specifically in BTechs, for 2 years. It's a 4-semester course. We run one subject in every semester. And at the end of the 4th semester, we want students to create their own models. So this course is going to go through the 101 of how to start a business, how do you do market analysis, whatever, all the business related stuff. How do you approach a venture capitalist? What is a private equity firm? All kinds of stuff like that. And at the end of the 4th semester, you submit your model, and if your model deserves another look, you're going to be able to present it to the venture capitalists and private equity firms that are going to be called there at ISB. So there is a potential for some of them to be getting funded, and from the government standpoint, we would like to fund some of these ideas as well. So we want to create some entrepreneurs also. So we are doing certain things like this. And we are also partnering with several research institutions. So this is to further enhance employability from an enterprising standpoint or from an innovation standpoint. So we are partnering with a European agency in Netherlands, agency from Netherlands, where they are going to put in 2 million euros, and we are going to pump in the same capital, and we are going to fund some projects that are research oriented, which are coming from the students of the state. So this is another initiative that we are doing. We are also partnering with corporate companies and trying to run electives by the corporates so that you get direct industry exposure. So there's a lot of stuff going on from the government. So this is something that I would like you to be knowing. And thank you, Amit, and thank you all the other panelists. I think you had really good inputs. We wanted to keep this very simple. You know, we don't want to give you some complicated second-degree differential equations and confuse you. This is not stuff that nobody knows. But I think, you know, when people with a background stand up there and emphasize this for you, you should understand the importance of it. I mean, it's all simple stuff. We all know, right? You need to be good communicators. You need to have good social skills. You need to have your own ideas. You need to be enterprising. You need to start your own stuff. So, I mean, I think with that, we'll conclude the session, and I'll hand it over to Ms. Seema Gupta for finishing it off. Seema.
Thank you so much, sir. I would now request you to please give the speaker mementos to your panelists. Dr. Pankaj Gupta, Director General, Jaipuria Institute of Management. Mr. V.S.N. Raju, Chief Operating Officer, Globrana Technologies. Mr. Amit Sharma, Additional Secretary, Government of Jammu and Kashmir. And Dr. Sri Rama K. Murthy, Co-founder, Chairman and CEO, Technique. I would request Mr. Amit Sharma to give the speaker memento to Mr. Amarnath Reddy, CEO, Jawahar Knowledge Center. Thank you so much.